But before you do that, with a mere couple hours now to finalize your brackets, we have the in on how to fill it out. Our cheat sheet is sports analyst and former four-year UVA starter and also host of Step to the Mic podcast, Ted Jeffries. He's joining me live. Ted, I brought my bracket. Depending on what you say today, I'm going to make some changes, I think, here.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time. And look, let's just face it, we're happy to have the NCAA tournament back.
Yes.
So this is the best 30 days in sports, in my opinion, so I'm excited.
Excellent. Well, can we start with some of our local teams here? I know Georgetown's in, Maryland's in. Where do you think they're going to fall? Will they get out of the first round even?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for both of these teams. Georgetown won 8 of its last 10 games coming in, including the Big East championship. But it's going to be tough for them if they can't get consistent play from their post players and their perimeter players. So, this is the inspirational kind of pick for the tournament because of what the late John Thompson and Patrick Ewing has meant to Georgetown to see them back in the tournament. But they're going to need everything to get past this Colorado team.
I think I have them winning twice. I might rethink Georgetown there, and I have Maryland winning too. You're saying? All
yeah.
right.
So Maryland, they've been an enigma. They've been inconsistent. Coming down the stretch, they sweep Michigan State, who creeps into the tournament, but then they lose in between those two games to Northwestern and Penn State. They come limping into the tournament, and right now the key for them is they have to get consistent play from their perimeter players. They have to shoot better than 35% for the three-point line to be in this tournament, and considering they do everything else right.
Okay, maybe I'm going to keep them in there just for hometown support. What about the coronavirus this year? I feel like it is an opponent to everyone. Kansas, Virginia, they're kind of facing some big challenges here with contact tracing, right, and trying to get ready for the tournament?
Absolutely. UVA has been probably more the worst this year. They have not practiced since they had to pull out of the ACC tournament.
Wow.
So their first practice will be Friday when they get into Indianapolis in preparation for their Saturday game. That's going to be tough. That's a lot of rust to be able to shake off. And this is a team traditionally who's gotten off to slow starts in the NCAA tournament. You look at Gardner-Webb 2 years ago, of course, the loss to UMBC, Coastal Carolina the year before, all slow starts. But, with the exception of the UMBC loss, they've been able to pull it out. I still have Virginia, shaking off the rust and coming up to win against Ohio University. But this is a very talented team. Watch for the name, Jason Preston, NBA lottery pick potentially coming out this year.
Okay. All right. I think I have that too. I'm going to keep it because you have it as well. I wanted to ask about some of the upsets. What makes this tournament so much fun is when a big number, 3 or 4 gets thrown over by maybe a smaller team. What do you think between number 5 Villanova and number 12 Winthrop?
Winthrop comes into this game against Villanova with only one loss, but the problem is they have no Power 5 conference teams that they played this season. So they're going to be, this is their first real challenge, if you ask me, when they face Villanova. Villanova is a team who's been consistently one of the best teams in the country, but they lost Colin Gillespie at 14 points a game, and he's a floor general for Jay Wright's team. This is going to be an interesting game because Winthrop is a extremely talented team with a lot of depth. They go about 11 players with different skill sets. So, it's going to be a matchup challenge for Villanova, but Villanova is extremely tough. It's going to be an interesting game to watch. I still have Villanova, but there is a potential upset here.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I have Villanova too. What about number 7 Florida versus number 10 Virginia Tech? I like to go for the local teams, but I think I have Florida winning this one. Is that smart?
Florida is an extremely dangerous team, but they have been up and down since the loss of Keontae Johnson. He's the player, if you remember, that went into a coma early this season, and I think that really rocked this team and he was their best player. So they are dangerous when they are hitting on all cylinders, but they have not been consistent. Virginia Tech, Coach Mike Young has done a great job when he was at Wofford. Now at Virginia Tech, they have wins over Villanova, wins over Virginia. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I have the upset Virginia Tech pulling this one off over Florida.
Okay, maybe that will be one of the amendments. I have my pen here. I might make some changes. Wanted to congratulate you, Ted. I heard that your podcast, Step to the Mic podcast, surpassed 5,000 downloads in the first 10 months. Thank you. Congratulations on that, and thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And now, everyone, because we're all in the know, you can go to WSA9.com/bracket challenge, pick your teams, and have a chance to win $1,500 or some other prizes. Mary Marshall.